Hello and welcome everybody. Today I'd like to teach you a little bit about the different loops that are available in C++. And today we'll be learning about the do-while loop as well as the for loop. To kind of illustrate the concept of a loop, let's go ahead and look at this example that I provided above. It says the distance a vehicle travels can be calculated as follows. Distance equals speed times time. That's the formula we'll be using. Write a program that asks the user to enter the speed of a vehicle in miles per hour and how many hours it has traveled. The program should then use a loop to display the distance the vehicle has traveled for each hour of that time period. And we're also going to be implementing input validation here, and we don't want to accept a negative number for the speed that the user enters, and we also do not want to accept a value for hours that is less than 1 hour. So let's go ahead and include our preprocessor directives, stream, and we're going to be using namespace standard. And let's go ahead and get our main function here. Okay, the first thing you should do in any program really is display or figure out what variables you need to get this program to work. So for this program, we're going to need 3 variables. One is going to be distance, one is going to be speed, and one is going to be time. And these are our variables. If I can spell it. There we go. Okay, so we want to first prompt the user to enter the speed of a vehicle in miles per hour. And that's as simple as using a cout statement. Please enter a speed for the vehicle, and we want that in miles per hour. We want to prompt the user for speed here. And we also need a cin statement so that the user can enter in speed, and we'll store that in the speed variable. We also need to prompt the user to enter a value for time. So please enter a enter how long has been traveling in hours. And prompt let's see, cout. And we want another cin statement for time. Okay, now that we've prompted the user for those 2, we also want to incorporate input validation as described up here, and we do not want to accept a negative number for a speed. And to accomplish that, we will use a do-while loop. So the format of do-while loop is do on top with an open parentheses. Let's go ahead and tab these over for formatting purposes. And close bracket, while, and this is where you're going to write your condition that tells the program, or tells the loop when to stop once it reaches a certain value. So for this, we don't want to accept a negative number for speed, so we want speed to be less than 0, because when we set this condition speed is less than 0, then if the user enters a negative number, that is a speed that's less than 0, the loop will iterate and keep iterating until this condition is false, and then it'll move on to the next series of code lines. And the next series of code lines will be another do while loop for the time variable that the user enters from the keyboard. Same formatting here. We're just going to change up the condition a little bit. We're going to say while time is less than 1, we want to keep iterating. So if a user enters in a time that is less than 1, we'll keep iterating this loop over and over and over until this condition is false, just like this here. Now the next part of this program, we need to display the distance the vehicle travels for each hour of that time period that the user just entered. So we're going to use a for loop here, and a for loop is similar to a while loop in the aspect that it takes in a condition. However, there are also 2 additional parameters that we need in the header for a for loop. And you want some index, which enables us to keep track of how many times the loop has iterated, as well as different counting methods. And we want to initialize that to 1, since the bare minimum time parameter that we've set for the user is at least 1. And our condition is that I is less than time plus 1. Let's go ahead and put those in parentheses. So that if, and this parameter allows the loop to iterate a certain desired amount of time. So if we enter in 5 hours here, then the condition will read is I less than time plus 1, which is 6, and it'll iterate 5 times, which is what we want. And to keep that I variable updating, we also need an I++ statement that will increment the variable I by 1 each time the loop is iterated through. And we want a bracket there, close bracket here. And what we're going to incorporate in this for loop is our formula for distance, which is distance equals speed, let's put this in parentheses, speed times I. And I will be the hour which is in the iteration. So essentially, each time this loop iterates, I will be updated. And in the very first time this loop iterates, this statement will read distance equals speed times 1. Then the next time, distance equals speed times 2. Then the third one, distance equals speed times 3. On and on until we reach this parameter here, or this condition. And the next statement we need is a cout statement that reads after and we're going to use I here to display the hour that we want for each statement. That's going to display our menu for us that we're trying to accomplish. We're going to say after I hours, comma, the vehicle has traveled and we're going to say distance here for the amount of miles the car has traveled based on the information the user entered. We're going to say the vehicle has traveled distance miles. So this statement is going to read after I, let's treat this as the first iteration. So it'll read after 1 hour the vehicle has traveled the distance that we calculated here, miles. And it'll keep doing that for each hour that the for loop cycles through. And that's really all we need for this program. Let's go ahead and include our return statement. As well as some formatting for my perfectionism. Okay, let's make sure we don't have any errors. We got processor directive using namespace, main function, we got our variables, we've got our do while loop, we've got a second do while loop, and the for loop is looking good. So let's see if we can run this. Go back to my shell. G++ loops.cpp. Name that output loops. Oh, it looks like I spelled it wrong. Lops. Loops instead. Alright, we're going to go ahead and run this. Okay, we were prompted with please enter a speed for the vehicle in miles per hour. Let's say traveling 55 miles per hour. And enter how many hours the vehicle has been traveling. Let's say we've been traveling for 5 hours. And we're now presented with this menu that reads, and this is the first iteration, the second iteration, the third iteration, the fourth iteration, the fifth iteration, which is what we want. We wanted 5 hours. We got 5 lines of statement. And this reads, after 1 hour, the vehicle has traveled 55 miles, and this will increment by plus 55 each time to display how many miles we've traveled per hour. Let's also check that our error checking works. So we're going to run this again. Let's try -1 here. Okay, that does indeed work. Since I entered a value that was less than 0, therefore negative, we get another statement here, and it's going to keep prompting me to do this over and over until I enter a value that's valid. So 55 again. Now, please enter how the vehicle has been traveling, or how long the, oh, sorry guys. Please enter how long, that's what it's supposed to say. Please enter how long the vehicle has been traveling in hours. And let's say we want less than 1, so 0.5. And that's invalid because it's less than 1. So we try that again. It's going to keep doing that until we enter something that is greater than 1. So 5 hours. And then that condition is met, and we have displayed this menu again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you know a little bit more about loops. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.